for runners, we're going to focus on opening up the hip flexors and the hamstrings today. So Brice is going to stand in the mountain pose, feet hip distance apart or touching, hands in front of the heart. Take a moment just to roll the shoulders down and back a few times, breathing in and exhaling out. Inhaling, exhaling out, and once more breathe in and out. Now just standing tall and connecting with the breath as you ground your energy for your practice today, Brice. Taking a moment to tuck the tailbone, square up the hips, lift the sternum, and connect with your breathing. Standing tall in that mountain pose for your practice today. Inhaling and floating the arms up, reaching up towards the sky. Twirl the pinkies in, lengthen the waist out of the hips. Relax the shoulders down and back away from the ears, and then arch back gently into a mild back bend, walking the gaze back slowly. Inhale, rise, lengthen, finding that neutral pelvic. Exhale and swan dive into Uttanasana, hamstring stretch. So we're just warming up now. We're going to have Brice bend his knees, bring his hands to his elbows for a moment, and sway out his torso in a bit of a ragdoll. Loosening up those hamstrings this afternoon, shifting the weight from heel to heel as we breathe. Slow, deep breaths here. And then releasing the arms to the floor and rolling the shoulders out a few times in one direction. And a few times in the opposite direction. We're going to have Brice move his head gently side to side, and loosen up any neck tension there. Slow, controlled breaths, Ujjayi breathing. We're going to relax the neck now. Take the arms behind the back. Interlace the fingertips and just gently bring the arms overhead, pleasant tension only. If your hamstrings are warm enough, you can work to straighten the legs a bit, taking the bend out of the knees. But remember, especially runners, if you have tight hamstrings, always feel free to keep a soft bend in your knees. You never want to overstretch those hams. Slowly release the hands to the floor. Bend the knees, come back to ragdoll. We're going to have Brice relax his arms and his neck and take a nice slow spinal roll up to standing. One vertebrae at a time, chin to chest, navel in. Once his head rises, we're going to have him sweep his arms overhead. Lengthen the side bodies, and then exhale, hands to heart center, Samasthiti, grounding the energy. Beautiful. Now we're ready. Inhale, reach those arms up, stretch, breathe, lengthen. Exhale, arch back gently into a mild back bend. Opening the spine. Inhale, rise, lengthen. Exhale, swan dive, Uttanasana, hamstring stretch. We're going to bend the knees and bring the hands to the floor. Inhale, lift the chest from the thighs. Exhale, step that right leg back into a runner's lunge. We're going to bring the ball of the right foot down, the heel up. We're going to work to straighten the back leg. And then climb on up to the left thigh or bring the hands to the hips. We're going to bend and straighten just the front leg a few times. Working to keep that back leg straight, taking the bend out of the back knee, just bending that left leg. We're stretching out the right hip flexors, top of that right thigh. Very tight area for runners and cyclists. And then when Brice is ready, he's going to settle into that lunge, stretching through that back thigh, squaring up his hips. Reach the arms forward on your inhale. Draw the shoulders back into the sockets and then sweep the arms up. Beautiful. Any shoulder issues here, you can always bend the elbows instead and pull the elbows back into a cactus position. Slow, deep breaths here, sinking the hips, lifting the waist, relaxing as the knees energetically draw away from one another. On Brice's next exhale, he's going to bring his hands to the ground here, dropping the back knee and the toes without putting any pressure on the back of that back kneecap there. We're going to have Brice slide that right leg back if he can a little bit, melting the thigh to the floor but keeping the knee down, keeping the knee on the ground. And then if he's ready, we're going to have him climb on up to his left thigh, hands to the thigh, and gently press back. Now this is an option. You're welcome to stay in any of these levels. He's going to keep sending the weight into his front heel and breathing into the top of his back right thigh, hip flexor psoas. If he's okay here, he's going to reach one or both arms up, lengthening the waist out of the hips and arching back mildly into Ananyasana, the crescent moon from kneeling, finding a nice back bend here. Slow and steady breaths. 2 more here. And 1 more. Then we're going to have him gently release his hands to the floor. Turning the back toes under, he's going to get that back leg off the mat, and he's going to step back into a high plank position, upper push-up position. Hands below the shoulders and a nice charged up core, navel to spine. Pressing his weight into his heels. We're going to have Brice bring his hands right below his shoulders, so bringing his hands a little bit closer. And you can either drop your knees to the floor for a hover, or if you're strong enough today, keep those legs straight and bend your elbows to your ribs into a little chaturanga. Inhale to a low cobra. Let's keep the elbows on the rib cage and just roll the shoulders down a few times. Inhaling, shoulders forward and up. Exhaling and rolling the shoulders down and back. Good, hugging those elbows in towards the body. Maybe bringing those hands just a little bit closer so they're right underneath the shoulders. Beautiful. And then turning the toes under. Exhaling into a little downward dog. We're gonna lift the hips high and back, stretching those hams now. So we're just gonna warm up here. We're gonna have Brice bend one knee at a time, slowly, like he's pedaling out his calves, sending the weight from heel to heel, also stretching the ankle and the shins here as well. Maybe swaying the hips side to side, loosening up that low back. Good, maybe even taking some deep knee bends here to relax the tops of the thighs. So anything that feels good to you in your first downward dog, feel free to do that. Loosen up the body, explore your movement. We're gonna have Brice bend his knees and look up towards his hands. And light and quiet, he's gonna step or jump or jog his feet to his hands. Good, he's gonna come back into a nice little forward fold, relaxing the neck. And then we're gonna have him bend his knees and take that slow spinal roll up to standing again, one vertebrae at a time so the head comes up lastly. Once his head rises, reach up, breathe in, touch the sky, and then exhale, hands to heart center. Step or jump those feet together, making your way back to mountain pose. Inhale, float the arms up, breath and energy. Exhale, arch back into a mild backward bend, walking back, the gaze, good, beautiful. Inhale, rise, lengthen. Exhale and swan dive, Uttanasana, hamstring stretch, folding forward, relaxing the neck. So in your Uttanasana, your hamstring stretch, you want to send the weight more towards your toes. Get the heels a little bit light if you can, like you could slip a sheet of paper underneath those heels. Bottom of the buttocks rolls up towards the sky there. Hamstrings begin to lengthen. Slow, deep breaths. We're going to have Brice bend the knees a little bit, bring the hands to the floor, and step his left leg back now to runner's lunge. Back heel up. Climbing on up to that right thigh, or bringing the hands to the hips and just bending and straightening the right leg only a few times. Warming up for that crescent lunge again. Finding the breath and the stretch in the top of the left thigh, the back thigh. So again, hip flexor, psoas, great area to loosen and stretch. Also a great pose if you sit a lot during the day, stretching out those hip flexors. Now settling down into that lunge, reaching the arms forward, drawing the shoulders back into the sockets, and then floating the arms up into that crescent warrior. Beautiful. Just a point to note, always making sure that your front knee is in direct alignment with the ankle and second and third toe. He's doing a good job of that. We always want to make sure the knee's never over the ankle, so just form that nice 90-degree angle. 2 more breaths here, lifting the waist out of the hips, elevating the torso. 1 more breath, and then gently floating the hands to the ground, dropping the back knee and toes, putting the weight in the front heel, maybe even stretching that left leg back further. And then you can stay here and breathe and move around into those hips, or you can climb on up to that right thigh and press away from the thigh, leaning back. If you're feeling good there, maybe reach one or both arms up, stretching the waist out of the hips, and arching back into Ananyasa, the crescent warrior from kneeling, crescent moon here. Breathing, stretching, enjoying. Pleasant tension only in every posture. Good, let's take 1 more here. Excellent, and gently releasing the hands back to the ground. We're gonna turn those back toes under, getting that back knee off the mat, stepping back into that high plank. Hands below shoulders, bending the elbows to the ribs, stopping when those elbows and shoulders are parallel, abs in. You can drop the knees here. Lowering down, chaturanga. Inhale to a nice low cobra. Let's open the back. Pull those elbows in towards the ribs, stretch the spine, beautiful. Turn the toes under, exhaling into downward dog. So focusing on hip flexors here, we're gonna inhale, have Brice bring his right leg hip level to start. Good, so just stabilizing the hips here like you're balancing a tray of water on the low back. Now we're gonna have Brice externally rotate his right leg so he's stacking his hips and then bending that knee and maybe even rolling that hip open a few times like you're drawing a big circle with that right kneecap, stretching into the top of that right thigh more deeply. And you can stay there, or you can drop your foot towards your left hip, finding that scorpion tail in your downward dog. Finding breath here. 1 more. Good, now we're gonna have Brice look at his right hand and bring his right foot to a wide-legged runner's lunge. He's gonna place his right foot flat outside of his right hand. He's gonna bring the hands as close as he needs to just to circle his hips out here. So again, we're back into hip flexors. Just drawing circles on the ground with the top of the hip. Slow, deep breaths. And opposite direction. Nicely done. Now we're going to have Brice bring his left hand closer towards his right foot and his right hand to his right hip. And then twist his torso in towards his right leg, finding a nice spinal twist, looking right. Good. Slow, deep breaths here, drawing that hip bone back, charging up that back thigh, and continuing that hip flexor stretch. One more here. We're going to slowly release both hands to the floor here, high plank position, legs back. Chaturanga or drop the knees, inhaling to cobra. Exhaling into the downward dog. Slow and controlled. Anytime you need to rest, you'll just drop your knees, come back when you're ready. Let's inhale and lift the left leg hip level now. Toes down, heel up, hugging those inner thighs into the midline to stabilize the hips. Slow breaths. And then externally rotating that left leg so the outer thigh faces the sky here. Let's bend the knee and maybe roll that hip open a few times, slowly. Breath opens the body. When we hold the breath, we tighten, so we always want to stay connected with the breathing. And then maybe dropping that foot towards that right glute, opening up that inner thigh. Slow breaths in the scorpion tail. And then gently looking at the left hand, bringing that left foot outside the left hand into a wide-legged runner's lunge and circling out the hips again. Palms are flat, chest is forward, breath is steady. Both directions with those hip circles. Good. And stepping back into high plank position, chaturanga or hover, inhaling to cobra or upward dog, shoulders down, elbows in. Beautiful. Exhaling to downward dog. You can add a push-up there if you want. You don't have to. And now we're going to inhale and lift the right leg up. Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2. We're going to bring that right foot between the hands into a runner's lunge with the core strength, or we can pick the foot up and place it there. Now, we're going to pivot the back foot flat, all edges down, so the heels form a straight line. Come on up to standing, squaring the chest with the hips. You're going to take those arms out shoulder level, turning your gaze over the right hand. Right knee deeply bends into a nice 90-degree angle with the ankle. Turning the gaze over the right hand, back leg is straight and strong. Slow, deep breaths here, feeling the knees drawing away from each other. Excellent, lifting the torso, relaxing those shoulders, good. Nice steady breathing there. One more here. Now, we're going to transition this to extended lateral angle. We're going to bring the right elbow lightly to the thigh or place the right hand outside the foot. We're going to take that left arm overhead, pointing the fingertips towards the ground here. Beautiful. Opening up the side body. So here's where you want to rotate your left rib cage, your bottom rib cage, up towards the sky. You don't have to look up. You can just look out or down and find some nice slow breaths here, enjoying that lateral stretch for the body. Two more here. One more deep breath. Beautiful. We're going to have Brice come all the way up to standing. We're going to have him bring his hands to his hips and come onto the ball of his back foot, unweighting the back leg. And step the legs together, top edge. Good. Inhale, arms up, breath and energy. Exhale, hands to heart center. So we're going to step the left leg back now for that Warrior 2. Bending the right knee deeply. And we're going to change this up and step back together and do the correct side of the body. Step together. Step the right leg back. That was my bad. Bend the left knee deeply. Warrior 2. Tuck the tailbone. Arms are out shoulder level. Turning the gaze over the left hand now. Finding that breath. Beautiful. So same postures, other side. Just simply switching sides on the sequence here. Steady breathing. Finding neutral pelvic. So the tailbone's tucked, the hips are squared, the breath is steady, the legs are strong here. One more deep breath. Now we're going to have Brice transition to extended lateral angle. Left elbow lightly to the thigh or his hands outside his foot maybe. Right arm's going to come overhead alongside the ear or behind the ear. And we're going to open up that right side body here. Slow breaths. Utthita Parsvakonasana, extended lateral angle pose. Beautiful side stretch here. Rolling that bottom right rib cage up towards the ceiling for two more breaths. And one more deep breath. Excellent. We're gonna have him bring his hands to the floor or ground, come onto the ball of that back foot, unweight it, step that right leg in. Okay, we can take a plank.
Oh.
That's okay, that's all right. Go through the vinyasa, high plank, chaturanga or hover. Inhale, cobra or upward dog, arching back. Exhaling to downward dog, breathing here. Beautiful. So we're gonna take a little frog squat here, great for opening up hips, low back, and hip flexors, inner thighs as well. So we're gonna have Brice bend his knees and look towards his hands. And he's gonna lightly and quietly step or jump his feet outside his hands. We're gonna have him turn his toes out with his heels in, bringing the hands to the floor, and rock the weight side to side, a little frog squat. So we're drawing the knee and the toes up and back, taking some deep breaths here, opening up those hips, pelvic and groin. If he likes, he can bring his feet flat and brace his arms against his legs, stretching the spine. Or he can bring his hands in front of his heart in Malasana, the garland pose. Beautiful. Sinking the hips and lifting the waist as the knees draw back. Great pose for opening up that lower body, opening up that pelvic. One more deep breath here. Good. We're going to gently release the hands back to the ground and turn the knees and toes forward, making our way back to ragdoll, the ragdoll pose. We're just relaxing here. And then we're going to slowly round the spine to standing, one vertebrae at a time, like we've been doing. Head comes up lastly, all the way up. And then once the head comes up, we're going to take a deep breath in, stretching towards the sky. Exhaling, hands to heart center, and stepping those feet together. Beautiful. Roll the shoulders down and back, find the breath. We're going to move into a little balance, but continue with opening the hips with Vrksasana, the tree pose. Now we are outdoors, so the ground isn't level, so if you're practicing outdoors, you might have to challenge your balance here as well. We're going to have Brice bring his hands to his hips and bend the right knee, shifting all the way to the left leg, really kind of melting those left toes down into the grass. Then he's going to turn his right knee to the right, placing his foot either on his lower leg, below the knee, or above the knee. The only place we don't want to place the foot is against the knee. Then we can bring the hands in front of the heart, or the branches out or up. Any hand and arm placement that you like is fine. Gaze at a point that's not moving. Find the neutral pelvic and breathe. Breath and balance and nice hip and inner thigh opening here. Excellent. Let's take two more breaths. Great for calming the mind, balancing the body, finding your inner and your outer balance as you breathe. One more here. We're going to have him gently release that right leg and give the legs just a little shake here. And then we're going to switch sides when he's ready. We're going to web those toes out into the grass, find that connection. Tuck the tailbone, hands to hips, bend the left knee, giving all the way to the right leg and finding that tree pose again, placing the foot on the inner lower part of the leg or above the knee, just not against the knee. Balancing the hips and then moving into any hand or arm placement that you like. In front of the heart, overhead, branches extended. If you sway, it's okay, tree sway. Just find your breath, mental balance, hip opening. Beautiful. Let's take two more complete yogic breaths here. And one more deep breath. Beautiful. We're going to gently release that left leg and give those legs a little shake. Excellent work. Now we're going to move Brice into a nice variation on Prazarita. Basically, it's like a wide-legged down dog, so it's great for those hips and those hamstrings. We're going to have him face whatever direction he wants to face, so you can face your left or right wall. Take the legs into a wide stride. Toes face forward. Now, we're going to have him bend his knees to bring his hands to the floor. And then we're going to have him walk his hands out as far as he can like a downward dog. When he's ready, he's going to work to straighten the legs and press his chest to his thighs. So if I had him walk his feet about 6 inches apart, he would look like down dog here. So he's going to really focus on stretching his lower spine and lifting his tailbone high and back, getting a nice deep hamstring stretch here. Slow, deep breaths. Lengthening out the low back, relaxing the neck. Beautiful. Two more here. One more deep breath here. We're going to have Brice just take a ragdoll and move around and breathe in whatever way he wants before we transition to the next pose. We're going to keep those legs wide though. So for runners, for cyclists, it's good to get a little lateral extension in your spine. So we're going to move into straddle fold twist from here. This is just a nice twist for the back. So we're going to bring the legs wide. We're going to bring the left hand to the ground with your fingertips pointing right, because that's the direction we're going to twist. We're going to turn the torso right. Then we're going to reach that right arm up and explore movement with that right arm, opening up the shoulder. So you might circle out your right arm. You might bring it overhead. Just play with the arm placement first, and then we're going to find a place where we enjoy holding the pose. So feel free to look down, move the arm into a big circle, see what feels good for you, and then once you've found your right place, your perfect place, exhale, send the weight to both legs and twist the spine, lengthening the crown of the head away from the hips, so a nice long back body. One more breath here. Now he's just going to smoothly switch sides. He's going to bring his right hand to the ground, fingertips left, reaching the left arm up. He's going to explore a little movement first with that left arm and see what feels good. If your neck doesn't feel good looking up, feel free to move the neck around. Look down, look out, see what feels best for you. And then find a place where you enjoy holding this pose and deepen that stretch. Excellent. We're going to take 2 more breaths here. And 1 more breath. And then we're going to ragdoll the body, bending the knees, doing anything that feels good. Excellent. Slow breaths. Just really give yourself time between poses to integrate and reconnect with your breath. We're going to be moving into some seated poses. So however Brice feels comfortable getting to the ground, he's going to take his time, having a seat on his bottom. We're going to do the butterfly first, Baddha Konasana. So we're going to have him bend his knees and bring his heels to touch. He's going to grab his feet or his ankles, lengthen the spine, roll the shoulders down, and then he's going to exhale and press his knees towards the floor. Now, you can do several different things here. You can hold the feet like they are, or you can try to open the feet like a book, letting the soles of the feet spread open towards the sky as those knees go down. You can stay seated nice and tall like he is, or you can lean forward and press your elbows into your calves, getting a deeper stretch. Or you can stretch the arms out in front of you. You can move around here. You don't have to stay still or stuck. Just find your breath, explore your movement, see what feels good. Nice deep hip stretch. This is also a great stretch for your lumbar, your low back. So really good for cyclists here. Stretching out that lower spine. Let's take 2 more breaths, enjoy. And 1 more breath. And then gently inhale and come on up slowly. And jostle the knees up and down, just relax. We're going to extend the legs straight out in front of the body. We're going to move into a seated twist here. So we're simply going to cross the right leg over the left leg with the knee bent. Or left over right, that's fine. That's okay, right over left. We're going to be twisting in towards the bent knee. So place the foot flat, bring the right hand behind you and the left elbow across that leg, or you can just hold the hand on the leg. Inhale, lengthen your spine. Each time you exhale, you really want to squeeze all of the air out to empty and twist the spine. So bringing suppleness to your back body, your spinal cord, toning the waistline here if you're getting those full, complete exhalations in. So each time you breathe in, lengthen. Each time you exhale, squeeze all the air out. Really enjoy. 2 more breaths here. Also continuing to stretch into the hip. And 1 more breath. Good, we're going to gently unwind to center. Uncross the leg and switch sides. Left over right. Left hand's behind you. We're going to be twisting into the bent knee side. So lock that right elbow outside the leg or hold the knee. Inhale to lengthen and exhale to twist. Now with these types of twists, you always want to make sure both hips stay anchored to the earth, so you do receive that hip stretch there. Get a nice gentle stretch into your IT as well. Great for runners and cyclists, stretching out that IT band. Just relax the shoulders and lift the heart. Great time to close the eyes and just really focus on how the breath flows through the body here. Making your practice meditative, mindful, conscious. 1 more deep breath here. And then we're going to slowly release that and come back to center. We're going to do a little seated baby cradle. We're almost done with our practice today, so let's hang in there. We're going to bend the right knee, holding the right knee in the right hand with the foot in the left hand. Try to make a straight line from knee to ankle if you can, and simply rock that hip out side to side. Slow, deep breaths, baby cradle. Now, if you can go deeper, you can bring your elbows you can bring the knee and the foot into the crooks of the elbows rather, and massage it out there. Good, now you can also come to a still place and just enjoy the stretch with the spine tall and the shoulders down. Finding your breath here. Now this is a bit of a seated pigeon pose, so a great stretch for your IT band. We're gonna go ahead and bend the left knee now and just place that right ankle on top of the left thigh. If you can pull the left foot in a little bit closer, you can go there. And you can either clasp your hands in front of your shin or behind the hamstring. And think about drawing that right knee away from you. Just a little seated pigeon stretch here. Slow, deep breaths, opening up into that right hip and IT. 2 more breaths. Continually drawing the right knee away from the body for 1 more breath. Beautiful. Now we're gently going to release both legs and just shake them out. Maybe rotate out the ankles. Bend your left knee for seated baby cradle, holding the knee in the left hand and the foot in the right. We're going to rock that hip open side to side, massaging that hip. Sitting tall, shoulders down, trying to create a straight line if we can from knee to ankle. Maybe that happens, maybe it doesn't. Just see where your body wants to go on this side. Bring it to stillness deep in the stretch. Or bring the foot and the knee to the crooks of the elbows if you can go there. Slow, conscious breathing, ujjayi breathing, your ocean wave breath. And then we're going to bend the right knee, place that right foot flat. Your left ankle goes on top of that right thigh. You can bring that right foot in a little closer maybe. You can clasp your hands on the shin or behind that right hamstring. Think about drawing that left knee away from you as you breathe into that hip. This is going to be our last seated pose today. We're going to take 2 more deep breaths here. And 1 more deep breath. Beautiful. We're going to release and shake the legs out in front of us and rotate out the ankles. Then we're going to simply roll onto the back, bending the knees to the chest, lying down, rocking side to side, cradle rock, left and right. Even with the sides of the head, if you want, you can massage the skull here. We're on the grass, so we might keep it a little bit of a smaller movement. Go ahead and drop the knees left and gaze right, low back twist. Your knees can be bent, straight. You can have your top leg over the bottom leg. We're winding down the practice today, so just enjoy breathing in to expand your ribs, pause and hold, and to exhale all the air out to empty and pause it. Really stretch out that low back. And then gently switching sides on that, dropping the knees right and gazing left. Slow breaths here. And then gently inhaling to center. We're doing 1 final pose. We're going to have Brice bend his knees and place his feet flat on the floor, on the ground. Feet together. We're going to draw the knees apart, reclining butterfly. We're going to relax the arms overhead, and we're just going to let gravity take over into the stretch. So you can really place your arms wherever you like. If you want, you can jostle 1 knee down at a time like you're seesawing out your hips. Really relaxing the sacrum, inner thighs, hip flexors, pelvic, groin. Great posture if you're a cyclist or a runner, or you sit a lot during the day. Slow, deep breaths here, just surrendering, letting gravity take over into this pose. Feeling the rise and fall of the belly as you breathe. We're going to have Brice bend his knees to his chest and hug him in and just rock again, side to side, cradle rock, massage out that low back. And then making his way to Shavasana, relaxation pose, lying down, closing the eyes, drawing the shoulder blades together at the back and letting the feet fall open comfortably. You're welcome to stay in this pose as long as you like. This is your last posture. This is a closing meditation if you choose for it to be. Stay with your breathing. Thank you for joining me. Fun in the sun.